Hi everyone, it's Vicki. Welcome to my channel, and I am back from my Alaska cruise. Of course we had a great time. Of course it was cold. Of course we saw beautiful scenery. We didn't see as much wildlife, but I really didn't go on any like whale watching things. We did see a lot of harbor seals and lots of, birds and stuff. But what I wanted to go talk to you about today, while it's fresh in my mind, because otherwise I'll just forget all about it, and that is to talk about expenses that are not covered in your cruise. Now, anyone who's cruised knows, and anyone who hasn't cruised needs to know that your basic fare will pay for a meal for you, 3 meals a day, at least, maybe more. It'll be included in your fare. There's a main dining room, and there's usually some other venues that like hamburger or pizza or something, little spots that are included in the price of your ticket. If you're on something like when we were on the Norwegian Dawn, there was even a Chinese restaurant that was included. There was Irish pub. I think there might have been one more thing, but anyway. So, you can go on a cruise and that is almost all the money you spend. What I'm going to, your cruise fare, your airfare, that sort of thing. What I'm going to talk to you about today is things that are above and beyond that if you don't know, you need to know so that you can plan for it. Now, you can control those expenses by staying on the ship and just eating your free food, and if you have a drink package, drinking from that. Otherwise, just drinking the water, iced tea, lemonade, whatever's in the dining rooms. But let's talk about the ways that you can end up spending money that you may not have prepared for. And I'm just going to start at the very beginning and say parking, because if you drive to a cruise port or Uber to a cruise port, you're going to have an expense of either leaving your car or getting dropped off and picked up. If you're lucky, you can fly in and a family member, is nearby and drops you off. Just remember that cruise terminals typically anywhere between $15 to $20 to $25 a day for parking, for secure parking in a lot. It's very convenient to park there. Sometimes people park off-site for $10, $12, $15 a day, and then there's a shuttle that runs them back and forth. But it's really, up to your pocketbook. But you will, if you don't fly into a cruise, you're going to have to either, park or take an Uber. Like we take an Uber or a taxi. Some of us need to pay for having our pets or our plants or our house watched while we're gone. So that's an expense that, when you think of, you're going on a cruise, oh yeah, my cruise only costs $1,000, But if you're having to pay these other expenses, then the true cost of your vacation isn't $1,000, only the cost of your cruise. Another thing is you may have tips at the port, like when you drop off baggage, you might want to tip the porter. If you're in a port and one of the rickshaw people give you a ride on a long, pier or something, you'll want to tip them. There might be musicians there or people with birds or some sort of traditional regalia, and you want to take a picture with them or of them, you'll need to tip them. It's usually not a set cost, you just tip. Sometimes I see something like $5, little sign that says that. But those are things that you are likely to run into, and I would say, especially if it's your first cruise, you might want to do those things. So you got to make sure that you bring some cash, or your credit card or whatever to budget for those sort of things, because they are not included in your fare. You can get excursions done through your ship, and you can, prepay for them before you go. But they're also available once you get to the port. There's usually excursions right inside the port area that are, kind of sanctioned by the port. And then right outside the port, there's unsanctioned excursions. But there are other excursions you can go on. We did that last time. We were in Cozumel. We went on one. And so you would need money for those. And I think that one that we went on had to be cash to get there in the taxi. But I prepaid it online. But it is not part of my cruise bill. And even if you have a prepaid excursion through the cruise line and you've paid for that when you paid for your whole cruise, you'll still need some cash to tip probably your bus driver or your narrator or whatever. It could be both. So you usually do that if they gave you good service and good information and you felt safe in their hands. It's customary to tip on that as well. Then there are free venues out there like museums and displays and different things that will have a donation jar set up. Like we were just in Alaska, and in Skagway we went into what they called the museum, which was really half a gift shop, and then the back had displays. Now I'm not going to discount those displays because it was half a gift shop. They were really nicely done. I used to work in a museum, so I know that they were nicely done, and they were very nice artifacts in there. And it's just that when you first walk in, it just looks like you're in a gift shop. It doesn't even look like a museum store. It looks just like a gift shop. But there is museum quality displays in the back with lots of information. It was very nice. And of course, there was a container back there for leaving a donation for that. And definitely, something you do. Then there is food at the port, and the food on your ship, unless you go to a specialty restaurant, of course, is included in your ticket. But when you get in the port, you are on your own. You are off the ship, so you would be paying for it. And I know, like when we go to Cozumel, there's a Mexican restaurant. I'm trying to think of the name, like Pancho's Back Porch or something, that we really like, and we go there. So you'll have to pay for food at the port. Also, any souvenirs or gifts, you can buy them on the ship. You can buy them, and then they would just be on your, cruise bill. But you can also buy them off the ship, obviously, and so that's going to be another expense. Especially if you're new to cruising or traveling, even, you're probably going to want some souvenirs or bring home gifts. I bring home gifts because people take care of things for me when I'm gone. I have orchids that need watered and such. So, I bring home gifts to say thank you to the people who watched out for my living creatures while I was gone. When you're in the port and you want to go somewhere, you're likely to take a taxi there. You might walk, but if you take a taxi, like say there's some church you wanted to see or a fort or something like that, and you have a taxi, then you'll have the expense of the taxi and a tip, of course. And then there's always all those things you forgot. Toiletries or pharmacy items like sunscreen, bug repellent in some cases. I've never needed that. Seasick pills, anything, toothbrush, toothpaste, tampons, anything like that. And you may need to buy those in a port. Or snacks. Sometimes you don't want to go to a restaurant, but you need a snack while you're on an excursion. You can run into one of the, because you can't really take food in and out of ports very easily. They have dogs there that are going to catch it. Some things they'll let you buy with, like maybe an energy bar that isn't opened, but it might just be easier to pick up that sort of thing in the port. And again, Cozumel has a little store that's kind of in the back of that port area. It's not a very noticeable store, and I think I don't remember the name of it, but it might say something about crew, but people call it the crew store because they can go in there and everything is just so much cheaper than, say, a store like on the ship or a store that's on the main part of the thoroughfare of the port. But they have, chips and soda and candy and some toiletry type things. And apparently that is kind of set up for the crew, but anybody can go in there. But anyway, so anything you forgot like that, or you need snacks, those are going to be an extra expense. And then I would say, I saved this one for last because I think it's really important, and that is cash to tip specific crew members. Now, when you're on a cruise, they will charge you a daily rate. Our last cruise, it was to Alaska. It was $17 per person. So Jerry 17, me 17, so $34 a day for tips. And those get spread throughout the ship. And the reason they're spread that way is because it takes a village to get you comfortable and safe and everything going. You're just seeing a small part. Most of the people who work on a cruise ship, you will never see. You're not supposed to see them. And there are people who do laundry. There are people who run the engines. They're They have this whole network in the lower floors of people that you'll never see. And so they would never benefit from you handing them a tip because you're not going to see them. So they bill you this tip that is spread amongst everybody. With that said, it's pretty traditional to tip maybe your waiter and the assistant waiter. There's usually 2 people taking care of your table. If they gave you good service, to give them a tip, especially if you eat in the main dining room every night and have the same server. And then also to tip your stateroom attendant, and possibly that person has 2 people working with them. They usually are a team, at least 2 people. And then, like when we were on the Norwegian Dawn, we had upgraded to a suite, and we had a butler and a concierge, and they did things for me. So I did tip them as well. It's not, if I never saw the concierge, I might not have done that, but I did. We had several meetings and several discussions. And anyway, so there are people on the ship that you may want to tip above and beyond the gratuity that is charged to your account each day. So I just wanted to give you an idea. I hope that this is helpful, especially to someone who's about to go on their first cruise and they don't know how much money to make or to take. I remember being, a young person and thinking about vacation and, just having just a barely above minimum wage job and trying to figure out, well, how much will this really cost? I know how much airfare and a hotel is, but how much is the food going to cost? What are my incidentals? What are my other expenses? And being a little nervous about traveling because I didn't know the total cost. And I know a lot of people will pick an all-inclusive for that reason. They don't have to worry about it. They know exactly what it's going to cost unless you step outside the resort. And that's kind of what we're talking about here with my list. It are the things that are outside your included costs. So I hope you find it helpful. If you have any other tips, and you can think of other things that people might need to think about where their money might go or what they might need to plan for, please drop it down in the comments below. Or if you had some experience where you ended up having to spend money you didn't have, tell us about that too and how that works. So thanks a lot for watching. Come back. I'm going to have Alaska videos. I'll be working on those pretty soon.